Hey, screwing along with Susan. Well, I'm back from my UK trip and I'm back in the workshop and I'm trying to think what to do next. And what I really want to do is make a case for my recorder, my alto recorder, and I was inspired by the Scotland Highlands to pick up my recorder again. So this is not going to be a scroll project, but a woodworking project. Now I am first a scroller, secondly a woodworker, and one of my challenges is to get that right sized box and learning how to attach it for a perfect box. I'm still working on that. I'm still trying to find the best style for me. So what I did is I just took regular pine. Actually, these are from pallets, and I cut them into 1 3/4 inches wide, put them together. I don't like how I did the bottom here, so I'm going to be working a little bit on that, and I wanted to practice before I use my good hardwoods, which I'm ready to do now. And I tell you, I wish I paid more attention in school when it came to math. I didn't think I would use math. I'm using it all the time on the dimensions and what size for the 45-degree angle, and you have to measure the inside and on. So I'm learning a lot. And so here is the way that I am going to be making the box. I wanted to make a fun top, so I glued together all the scrap pieces of wood that I use to make frames with. Obviously, I have to clean it up a lot. I need to run it through my planer, get rid of all the glue spots, and I should end up with a 1/4 inch thick piece of wood when I'm done. And the sides are going to be a 1/4 inch thick. The inside dimensions I want final to be 2 inches tall, 12.5 inches long, and 3.5 inches wide. So I need to take in consideration the 1/4 inch thick on the sides. I'm going to be cutting the sides 2 inches wide and 13 inches long. I'm going to cut the whole board, therefore I have the side pieces at 4 by 2 inches as well. I'm taping all 4 pieces I just cut together because I'm going to cut them all at the same time. Make sure that they're all even. Decide which side you want to be the inside and the outside and mark it so that when your 45-degree angle comes down, it's on the inside. I did some test cuts on some scrap and I realized I had to be at 3 3/4 to have the inside at 3.5 inches. So I have my stop block here to cut the end ones at 3 3/4 at a 45-degree angle. For the longer pieces, I don't have enough length on my chop saw and I don't want to build an extension right now, so I'm going to be using my table saw. I have it at a 45-degree angle. I verified that it is. Now I'm going to be putting a stop block right at 13 inches and we're going to try that. If not, I'll go to 12 3/4 inches. Make sure your stop block cuts way shorter of where you start cutting. I'm going to be risking kickback on that. So my stop block will stop before the wood starts cutting. Really glad I have extra length here. I cut it at 14 because I need to go to 13 3/4 to get my 12.5 inches on the inside. I'm not ready to glue these up yet, but I am going to tape them together so that I can get the proper outer dimensions. Even though I measured, make sure it's squared up. I'm sure those of you that are very experienced in math can explain why this happened, but measuring the top ends up being the outer part at 4 1/8. And the width of it is fairly close to 13. It's like 13 and a hair. So I am going to cut the top and the bottoms 13 and a hair and a 4 1/8 to fit. I've cut the top and the bottoms to size, and now I have them over at my router. I'm going to do the bottom part here, and I want it to be 1/8 of an inch in so that it's inset. I'm cutting 1/4 of an inch all the way around and 1/8 of an inch deep so that my box should fit right inside this bottom part. I find it interesting that of all the measuring that I did and all of the testing I did on my router to get just that right size, I still cut it a little bit too narrow in here, or it went in a little too deep. So this is going to be covered by felt or some other type of material, so you're not going to be able to see this, but I'm cut a couple real thin slivers that I'm going to have to glue in here before I glue the top to the bottom. And well, you know, if woodworking was easy, everyone would do it, right? Those little thin strips that I put in there are protruding a little bit, so I'm just taking my hand planer and smoothing them out so that they're even with the bottom middle part of the box. Now it's time for the glue up of the frame part of my box. Make sure you have plenty of glue in the joints. Flip it over with a painter's tape and let it dry. Here's how I left the box frame to dry, and now it's time to take it apart and attach the bottom. I actually waited for the box frame to completely dry overnight before attaching the bottom to it. Again, plenty of glue. Make sure the box frame is firmly on. Use plenty of clamps to secure it. Make sure you read your instructions on the glue too. Some take a lot longer than others to dry thoroughly. I have a lot of gluing to do on this inside. So I'm making one side 1.5 inch wide. The other side is going to be just about 2 inches. So I have these little spacers here. So I'm getting exactly the right size that I want in here, and gluing the bottom and the sides together. And I'm also gluing 1 1/4 inch pieces at the bottom of the box and the top of the box for my hinges, because 1/4 inch is not thick enough for the screws that I'm going to be using. So I didn't have to use hardwood for the separation, but I know that it's sturdy once it's glued in, and it's going to be covered with material anyway to protect my instrument from banging around against the wood. The box structure is built. Now it's time to hand sand everything. I'm going to take the edge off of the sharp points, smooth them over a little bit, smooth the top of the box so it has a nice even curve and a nice feel to it. And I'm using 220 grit here. Then I will be able to apply my polyurethane. And of course, always finish with hand sanding. I'm going to be using 220 and 400 grit. And I'm just getting rid of all the little details from my sander that I couldn't get. I would say it took me over an hour just sanding. Now I'm taking some mineral spirits and cleaning everything, all the sawdust off, so I can see if I'm done sanding or if I need to do a little bit to tweak it. Polyurethane is not my favorite, but this is going to be transported a lot, and I wanted a nice, thick, stronger coat on top. Now it's time to put some hinges on, and I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants on this one. I just did a regular shape, and I'm going to cut out leather and glue it on, and then put screws on both sides. Cutting out a sample piece first. just measuring it and lining it up just so. I am using a wood burner with a very, like an awl shape at the end to burn a hole where I'm going to put the screw. I am using E6000, which will bond leather to wood. After putting glue on the hinge and putting it on the box, I use blue painter's tape to put on top to keep it in place to dry. Well, I went back to the scroll saw and cut out a little knob out of a piece of scrap wood, and I'm going to glue it to the front of the box so I'll be able to wrap my leather around it to secure the lid. Glue will not be strong enough, so I will attach from the inside another screw to hold this together. This is such a delicate box that I don't want to use my drill press. I am going to be using an awl to drill my pilot hole for my screws. For the inside parts, I need to cover it to protect the instrument, so I'm using black velvet and I'm measuring all my dimensions. I have covered over with blue painter's tape all the edges and the pieces that I do not wish to get the Gorilla Spray adhesive on, because I'm going to be sticking my material directly to the wood. And basically I just have 4 rectangles that I cut out. Well, using spray adhesive was a real challenge. As soon as I put the material on the glue, it wanted to stay right there, and it was very difficult to adjust it. I think next time I'm just going to use super glue and put dots on it, and I touched up with super glue here at the end. For the top of the box, I just took a decorative necklace piece that had a hole in it so that I could secure it with a screw. And I have a leather tie here, and then I can just tie up like this to secure the box. Now this isn't perfect, but since it's going to be in a bag, I wanted to make sure that it could not open. I made a lot of mistakes, but it will work out just fine for what I need this for. And I'm going to be transporting it a lot, so I had to have something that I could totally secure and it wouldn't open up in my bag. And I think this will work out fine. If you are looking to build your very first box, then I suggest you look further on the internet for someone that has a lot more experience. If, on the other hand, you are looking for ways to attach hinges and using leather as a different method, then I hope maybe you got something out of this. So, thanks a lot for sticking with me, and I'll see you next time.